Hi, welcome to Deep Dark Boys. Today, I'll be recapping the game Horizon Zero Dawn. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and enjoy the ride. The game is set in the 31st century, on a world ravaged by a near-apocalyptic event called the Derangement. The details of the event are a mystery, but what we do know is that humankind was nearly overrun by a species of, robot dinosaurs. The story begins in the year 3021, with the birth of our hero, Aloy. She seemingly belongs to a tribe called the Nora, who are a religious group of hunter-gatherers. They act much like our own ancient ancestors here on Earth, and we're made to wonder if perhaps that is when this game is set. But I've already spoiled that it's actually the future, so on we go. The Nora worship a sacred being known as the All-Mother, which is physically represented by a mountain. One day, a baby is discovered within the mountain. This baby is Aloy, named with the blessing of High Matriarch Teersa. This poor little unit is shunned from the Nora tribe for not having a mother because religion, but she is caringly raised by a man named Rost, who happens to be an outcast himself. When Aloy is 6 years old, she goes out exploring where she shouldn't and lands herself in a cave. That fall surely should have killed her, but it doesn't because games. Deep in the cave, Aloy discovers what appears to be a Bluetooth earpiece. It's actually called a Focus, and as soon as she puts it on, it triggers a bunch of surrounding technology. Aloy begins to learn the truth of the world around her, though it's a little over her head for the moment. Upon escaping the cave, Aloy is able to use her focus to save a Nora boy named Teb from a pack of Striders, one of the most common forms of dino. When Aloy later speaks with Rost alone, she goes full chud and begins demanding answers from him. More than anything, she wants to know who her mother is. Rost tells Aloy that the Nora host a tournament called The Proving. He commits to training her for it, for if she wins, she'll be allowed to enter an AMA session with the matriarchs. She'll also be accepted back into the Nora tribe, which Rost believes is best for her. Aloy acts like she grew up on 80s VHS tapes and speedruns adolescence with the help of a montage. It is now 3040, and Aloy is 19. She is ready for the Proving. Rost waits until now to inform her that if she wins, she'll never be able to see him again. Aloy reluctantly heads to the town of Mother's Heart, where the Nora are celebrating the Proving. Here, she meets officials from a neighboring tribe, the Karja. One of them, Erend, announces that the Mad Sun King is dead, killed by Jaime Lannister. His own son, Avad. Aloy spots another Karja man named Olin, who has a focus just like hers. He dodges her questions, and a thirsty Erend sidles in to ask Aloy for her number. He invites her to a city known as Meridian, run by his people, which represents the peak of the rebuilding civilization. The next day is the Proving, and despite the best efforts of some Slytherin dweebs to sabotage her run, Aloy is set to win. That is, until it all goes south. Just as the proctor gives Aloy her new title, she is shot dead by the Cult of the Eclipse. They're here to poop on everyone's fun. Aloy fights back and even bags a cultist's focus, but the enemy succeeds in murdering most of the teens. Aloy looks to be next, but Daddy Rost shows up to save the day. Unfortunately, he too is killed, and Aloy suffers another fall that should absolutely have killed her, but it doesn't because games. She wakes up inside of a mountain sanctuary. The focus she founds teaches her that the Eclipse have orders to kill her, and that there is a woman out there with almost identical DNA to Aloy. Aloy believes this to be her mother, but the High Matriarch Teersa appears and drops a bomb. Aloy's real mother is the mountain itself. Teersa brings Aloy to a big mechanical door, which she says is the All-Mother. Aloy refuses to believe that a door can be a goddess, and tries to hack it, but cannot. So she decides she'll follow the trail left by Olin's focus to the city of Meridian for more answers. This journey will take her outside the boundaries of the Nora tribe. Hence, the matriarchs decide to name Aloy their new seeker. This allows her to travel and pry without becoming an outcast again. Just as Aloy ventures out, she encounters a Corruptor. It's a strange scorpion octopus robot dinosaur that spreads a sort of virus to other dinos, making them all aggro. Likely a proponent of the derangement. Aloy bests the Corruptor and steals a piece of its hardware, which means she can now override machines as well. Video games are the best. Eventually, after clearing off the side quests on her map a little, Aloy reaches Meridian and reconvenes with Erend. They break into Olin's place and sniff out a trail, which leads them to an excavation site. Here, Olin is working with the Eclipse to unearth more Corruptors. You remember all those terms, right? Okay, exposition time. The Eclipse are a rogue faction of the Karja, led by Helis, who followed the Mad Sun King until he was recently overthrown. They worship a robot demon called Hades because they believe it to be the incarnation of their god, the Buried Shadow. Hades says it will give them power, so they do its bidding, and Olin is their stooge. Also, the Eclipse believe Aloy must die, simply because she looks like that woman from the hologram she saw earlier, whom she had a near-identical DNA match with. Aloy and Erend go on further adventures, in which they discover a plot to blow up all of Meridian, as well as a plot to assassinate the new King Avad, and they fix it all up nice and tidy. Aloy then ventures north to a place called Maker's End, which is where Olin originally found that image of Aloy's maybe mommy. On her way, Aloy begins hearing a voice in her head. At Maker's End, Aloy climbs a massive tower. When she arrives at one of its uppermost floors, she triggers a hologram, and this is where the story really kicks off. Before I proceed, may I take a cringe moment to say please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content, and feel free to check out my other videos. If you're interested in this story but don't know if you want to buy the sequel just yet, I'll be making a Let's Play series on it starting this weekend. Okay, back to why you're here. Aloy triggers a series of hologram conversations between two very important people. One is the woman whom she shares looks and DNA with. Her name is Elizabeth Sobek. She's a scientist from the distant past. The other is Ted Faro, the egotistical head of Faro Automated Solutions, the company responsible for all the robots we've been seeing lately. Initially, these two developed the machines to help uphold peace. Of course they did. The machines were purposely developed to act together as a swarm, to hack other devices, and to be intelligent enough to replicate themselves. However, they'd require biomass, aka living matter, to do so. Oh, and no backdoor was built into their OS. Oh, and Ted here happily sold control of these things to third parties. Clearly, things were all set to go exactly according to plan. Aloy learns that 1,000 years ago, there was a glitch. The machines began answering only to themselves. What do these things want, you might ask? Well, the same thing we all want, Pinky: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Which in the case of robot dinosaurs means eating the planet in order to reproduce. And thanks to Ted, there's no backdoor. Game over, losers. This was the beginning of what was known as the Faro Plague, the end of times. Aloy then meets the man behind the voice she's been hearing. His name is Silence. He's a badass. He knows things, but not everything, and he wants Aloy's help. With his guidance, she breaks into a ruin held by the Eclipse, and discovers that it is the headquarters of Project Zero Dawn, another project spearheaded by Ted and Elizabeth. Zero Dawn was the Faro scientists' last-ditch effort to save the planet, and it's the best bit of sci-fi lore this narrator has seen in a decade. Turns out they knew they were screwed, to the extent that there was absolutely zero chance of saving themselves. So they used what was left of their lives to develop a solution for future generations. So yes, effectively the opposite of how our world's governments are handling the climate crisis. Zero Dawn was a network of underground bunkers and cloning labs, all governed by Gaia, the most powerful AI ever made. The idea was that as the Faro swarm ate up all life and laid waste to the environment above ground, the last living scientists would hide out in a bunker known as Elysium, continuing to work on Gaia until they eventually died out. But Gaia would live on, and many years into the future, it would create cauldrons, underground factories that would pump out new machines. These machines would terraform and restore the destroyed Earth. They would shut down the swarm. They would restore biospheres, redeveloping an ecosystem that could sustain human life. Then, they would reintroduce humans and animals. You heard me right. Autonomous terraforming of the Earth and regeneration of life itself. God damn, what a Hail Mary. Gaia possessed multiple subfunctions, responsible for things such as preserving our culture and technology. One of the subfunctions was Hades, the same entity that the Eclipse now think to be their god. But Hades is not the buried shadow. Hades is a part of Gaia, a failsafe designed to wipe everything out if things were to go sideways with Project Zero Dawn. You might be asking yourself why this would be necessary if human life were already extinct, and honestly, I do not have a good answer for you. Aloy ventures into the Zero Dawn ruins, discovers the office of Elizabeth Sobek, and finds the key to bypass the corruption she found at the door of the Allmother. You remember all those terms, right? Then Helis and the Eclipse ambush Aloy, and she awakens in a gladiatorial arena where she'll be blood sacrificed to Hades. However, she is rescued by Sylens, and everything is epic. Helis yells traitor, which makes us wonder about Sylens' past. Aloy makes the return journey to Nora territory as the Eclipse is mid-invasion. Aloy helps to fight back, then heads on down to the Allmother. On the other side of the door is another piece of Gaia's underground network. This particular section is the one responsible for repopulating humanity. However, an unknown signal has contacted Hades and triggered its Doomsday Protocol. In order to stop this, Gaia has decided to self-destruct, which means no more terraforming AI. But how does Aloy factor into all of this? Her secret is finally revealed. She is a clone of Dr. Elizabeth Sobek, designed by Gaia to restore the AI programs and destroy Hades. Having learned that she is the one, Aloy heads north once again to the ruins of Gaia. Here she learns that Dr. Sobek sacrificed herself to keep the Pharaoh Dinos from discovering Gaia. She also learns that Dickhead Ted sabotaged the Apollo subfunction of Gaia, which was supposed to teach the new humans things about their predecessors. He also killed the remaining scientists who knew about it. Small PP energy, to be sure. This explains why humanity has effectively devolved and functions mainly as hunter-gatherers once more. Aloy finds herself a master override that she can use to delete Hades. However, Sylens shows up. He reveals that he's the true founder of the Eclipse, the one who discovered Hades in the first place. The reveals keep coming as Sylens explains that Hades' true purpose is to signal all of Pharaoh's remaining Dinobots, which are lying in wait inside of the planet. The Eclipse also wishes to overrun Meridian and use the tower there to boost the broadcast of Hades' signal. Aloy boogies to Meridian, teams up with King Avad, and thus begins the Battle of Alyte, in which they defend Meridian from Helis and the Eclipse, and thus Doomsday. Aloy kills Helis and uses Sobek's credentials as well as Sylens' lance to destroy Hades once and for all. Aloy then decides to make a pilgrimage to the resting place of Dr. Sobek, since she's kind of the closest thing Aloy has to a mother. She saved humanity, after all, and there must be more to learn about her. Cue the post-credits scene, in which we learn that Hades is not actually dead and has flown off to become a fairy in a jar for Sylens, probably going to help him ping things on his minimap and remind him to double jump and things like that. So, hell yeah, this story is amazing. It's historical fantasy sci-fi, it's a Disney-esque tale of discovery and finding one's place in the world, and it's a riotous regurgitation of the Terminator's tale of apocalyptic foreboding. But in this one, the robots won. This Friday sees the release of the long-awaited sequel, in which Aloy journeys to the Forbidden West to learn more about Sobek, and Sylens will no doubt show up with his demon lamp and monologue at us in a slow, disconcerting tone. I'll be making a gameplay series for at least the beginning of the game, so if you're interested, please join me for the ride. This has been Adam of the Deep Dark Boys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.